Welcome to another Take 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda, designed to help you while you're undergoing this crisis and this lockdown. A few weeks ago, Janice, my wife, shared in one of these Take 5s. And in fact, that was the most popular Take 5 we've ever put out there in terms of people viewing it and sharing it. So I'm definitely going to have to get her to do a few more of them. But she spoke about whenever Jesus was in the boat and the storm came and the disciples were panicking and Jesus was asleep. And she spoke about overcoming fear. And she talked about how Jesus was not afraid because he knew that his destiny, he knew God's purpose for his life was not to die in a boat, but to die on a cross. Now, there's something else that I want us to notice in this account, and it's this. And we read about it right at the end of Mark chapter 4. That whenever Jesus was on the boat with the disciples and they were crying, "Lord, don't you care that we die?" And he basically got up, and it says he rebuked the wind and the waves and said to them, "Peace, be quiet." Well, he also needed the disciples to hold their peace and to be quiet. Because for him to speak to the wind and waves to desist, they had to shut up first for him to do that. And it's very easy when you find yourself in a situation where you really need to step out in faith and you really need to affirm your trust in God. It's very easy for all those voices round about us to distract us. Now, maybe you're finding yourself in a place where there are distracting and discouraging voices, and you're trying to walk by faith, and yet there's people speaking unbelief to you. Now, I'm not suggesting that you be ignorant to people. I'm not suggesting you be rude, but you need to find a space where you can get away from everybody else for a while and just get alone with God. Elsewhere in the New Testament, it tells us that whenever Jesus was going to raise Jairus' daughter from the dead, that first of all, he went to the house and all the mourners were in there screaming and wailing and everything else. He put them out of the house first, and then he raised her from the dead, because Jesus didn't want to raise her from the dead surrounded by all that unbelief and negativity. So sometimes we need to just get away on our own. And old-time Pentecostals used to talk about a prayer closet. And now today we can sort of laugh at that term, at the idea of somebody closing themselves in a broom cupboard or the kitchen press. But the idea was it was a private place. It was a place where you went alone to be with God, away from all distractions and all the doubt and fear and unbelief that others might bring into a situation. And there's times we need to do that. There's times we just need to get alone. And it may be just finding a room in the house where you can be on your own. It might be going outside into the garden or the street, keeping within 2 kilometers, of course. It might even be shutting yourself in the toilet if necessary. But sometimes we've got to get in a place where it's just us and God, and then concentrate on him. Concentrate on what a great God he is. Remember some of the miracles that he did in the Word of God in both the Old and the New Testaments. Remind ourselves of testimonies we've heard from others about God's greatness. Remind yourself of times when God has already worked on your behalf and when God has already answered your prayer. And then when you are suitably immersed in that sense of his greatness and his goodness, then pour out your request to God. Because we got to sometimes just get rid of all that surrounding noise and all that surrounding clutter and all the screaming and shouting and panicking that's going on, and just concentrate on who God is and what his word says and what we want him to do for us. So I want to encourage you today, if you need something from the Lord, shut yourself in alone and just pray. Just ask him to touch your heart. Just ask him to move in your life. Ask him to give you a miracle. And guess what? God answers prayer. He's done it again and again and again, and we can trust him to do it once more. Be blessed today. Thank you for joining us for this Take 5, and join us again tomorrow for another 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.